Science Officer Eli Schwab's personal log. We've landed on this amazing planet called Goom. I'm searching for a strange reading we've received, and as the resident ethnomusicologist, I've been sent out to look. There's a strange, pulsing sound here on the planet, sort of like music happening all the time. The more I search, the more strange readings I get. I don't understand everything about this planet yet, but hopefully soon. I'm very, very interested to see where this music is coming from. It sounds like drums, ancient and pulsing. I look far and wide, but I don't see any gatherings, and I don't see any musicians. The planet is peaceful enough. No beasts or any type of threat from animals yet. I haven't even found any people to chat with or to ask any questions. Oh, I found a strange rumbling, though, in the dirt. If I look directly at the planet, it's vibrating. The soil is packed with what I can only describe as music. It starts to get louder now. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from, and I believe I hear it on a ridge behind me. I begin to run. I can't stop. I'm getting closer, though. I know it. Hell yeah.
Man, I love that. That was Eli Schwab's awesome Star Trek short, the ethnomusicologist from the USS Cosmic Line. I'm just going to bring Eli in so we can chat. Here he is.
How's it going? Very good to have you. Good to be here, man.
Man, thanks for hanging out and talking about Star Trek with us.
Oh, it's my favorite thing to talk about.
We chatted before about comics on Dan's old show, and
yes,
you know it's. But I just keep forgetting, like, what a great big Star Trek fan you are. Like, first of all, props on the Jam shirt. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I was working with Bernie there for a little while, and we launched this TeePublic store together. And so I recently got this shirt after he passed, and I think we're raising some money for his family with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Most people checking in know who Bernie is. He's a Canadian guy that, just died in the saddest way.
Yeah.
I love the Jam. That was so cool.
Such a great book.
That was one of those things where I was like, when in the early 2000s, when everybody saw the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and then everybody just sent it on San Diego and went, what's up for IP? I thought for sure that do you know Paul Grist?
I do. Yeah.
I would bet money that Paul Grist's Kane would have been made into a TV show, and the Jam would have at least been like an independent movie.
Yeah,
that like perfect. Those two things were like so commercial and so an easy in for regular folks that don't know about comics, and I just couldn't believe it. Anyway, I love his stuff, and it's a drive.
Total drag.
Anyway. Yeah.
I thought about actually saying that I was from the USS Moreau when I was making that short.
Aw.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But then you would have had to speak with a French accent, and the crew should have been all Canadians, and your insignia would have been an maple leaf or something. So yeah, we chat all the time on the internet, and we have lots of subjects in common that we like. And you were asking me about all the Star Trek costumes, and I'm like, hey, I've never seen a first season jumpsuit.
Yeah,
like people
I've
make them.
Been looking for one too.
People make them all the time, but like, I don't know. I was a big Star Trek fan at first, and those first couple seasons aren't that great. The second season is not their fault. It was they had the whole like writer's strike in there.
Yeah.
But there was just something about the design and everything was just kind of like, I don't know. Once it got to about third season, they got these uniforms with the jacket sort of cut, and I'm like, all right, let's fucking go.
I think for me, part of it is like that's like when I started with my Trek viewing. I have this memory of watching the first episode. I was like 5 years old, but I still remember parts of that evening where we were. The ensign freezing, that's like the one thing I remember the most,
That's fantastic.
Yeah. But like I think also too I had the Gloob little minifigs and they had the old
yeah.
So I think maybe that's where I started loving it. I used to draw those and draw from the figures and stuff. So maybe that's where my love of that uniform came. And so when you were like, oh yeah, I got a guy, I was like instantly got it. Instantly had to get it.
Yeah, the Kozermart guys in China are really cool. I'm actually wearing their pants right now.
Yeah.
But I never looked. I didn't know confidently that they had one of those, but I knew where to look. And so when I got them, I couldn't have got that link to you fast enough. And then it seemed like 2 weeks later, you've got like a whole short. And I was like, oh man, of course Eli's going to like talking about the costumes. So let's get him on here. And we played the short. And you said that's a worldwide exclusive, right?
Absolutely an exclusive. Yes. It's just a sketch of like something I want to do. I shot it with my iPhone. I just went up into the Topanga National Forest by my house and just shot it because I know they always used to shoot in these California mountains.
Yeah.
They'd shoot California for, SETI Alpha or for whatever planet, and so I just went up there and kind of had this idea rumbling in my head for weeks because I had a red Next Gen when I was growing up, when I was a kid. And then I had the Operations Gold, Deep Space Nine when I was kind of like in middle school and high school.
Oh, that's
I used
cool.
to like wear and not tell anyone, And and so I was like, I never had the blue one. And that's like Science Officer. That's like what I think I would actually probably do if I was like in Starfleet. I would want to be out there and ethnomusicology is something I wanted to go to school for. And I figure like music is so universal that there has to be, races or school societies on other planets that are like ruled by music. So I was like, this is what I've got to like make this short about.
Just as a dopey fan, that's what I loved most about that. You're like, I'm an ethnomusicologist. And I was like, okay, that's cool. We haven't seen that in Star Trek before. What is that exactly? And right when I'm having that thought, you go, the soil is tainted with music or something. And I was just like, wow, that could not be more Star Trek. So I really enjoyed that. That was cool.
Yeah, I just figured it is not something that's ever really been covered in music. There's like little things and maybe the music box that that was in that one episode where, oh God, they always make fun of it on The Greatest Trek. I don't know if you've listened to that podcast where it's like, the Hushnock, I killed every single Hushnock for killing my wife. Or whatever that one.
Yeah.
So there's like the music box in that one, but there's never anything that was like huge about music. And it's such a big thing for me. And
that's what I think is so great about that. You notice that because there's always music involved somehow, right?
Oh yeah.
Somebody's always playing a flute. Riker's got his trombone.
It's true.
there's Saga side. I killed them all.
All Hushnock everywhere are dead.
But there's always something, but that's what I liked about it is like it's like the Alan Moore planet that is a Green Lantern. Do you know about that?
I haven't read that. No.
Yeah, there's one Green Lantern that it's just the entire planet, and when you see it from space, the clouds like form the little ring.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I was like, that's what I'm gotten for Ymir's story, right? It's like, oh yeah, the planet itself is just humming along with the music of the spheres, right? Like, and
exactly
like
the sounds wrong, that we hear.
Only Eli can fix it, you know.
And then because I sent that to my folks who may or may not be watching.
Mogo.
Oh, that's Mogo. Ah,
yeah.
And
that's here, folks. Yeah.
Oh, of course they're huge. And you posted that photo on your post. We did that the Star Trek screen test back in the day, which is also on YouTube. You guys can check out.
Yeah, I should put the link to that because I watched the first couple bits of it.
Yeah,
and like because it's your dad, he's like, you know, Kirk and Spock are in there, and then somebody is just like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, everybody's into it. So
he did just text. They are watching. Hey, mom and dad. Thanks.
Okay, cool.
Watching Star Trek, getting me on it at such an early age. Anyway, I sent it to them, and my mom's like, "Well, where's the music? Why didn't you find it in the end?" And what I wanted to say to her, and you know, that it found me, and that's what those lightning bolts, and that's what the planet reacted and put the music inside of me at the end.
I totally got that. You did have like kind of like a little like drum beat going.
Yes, it was the Grateful Dead live in Egypt drums.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I totally got the reveal at the end. It's like, oh yeah, he's heard something in the distance, and now it's like I got that like the planet summoned you for some reason through the power of music, and then that's how they get to talk to you.
Right. And so now perhaps I go back in and I'm like the traveler kind of thing. And instead of controlling time, I can control the rhythm of the spheres or whatever.
That's fantastic. You can control the rhythm.
That's kind of like always been part of it. I like, you know, even with my first comic, Monkey Lion, I tried to fuse my love of like Ninja Turtles and Star Trek and have this like and music and have this like anthropomorphic band, you know, on tour through the galaxy so that I could kind of tell these like Star Trek stories and tell these stories like that, you know.
What was that big image thing that you did?
Oh, Image Grand Design. I think that's when we first spoke as well, too.
Yeah. So that was the first time I read your stuff, and I know a lot of it was, I mean, editorial stuff, but I totally got that there's like a little syncopation with the stories that you selected. Like I wouldn't have gone all the way to music, but now that you mention it, there kind of is. Yeah. But I got sort of like, oh yeah, this whole thing is like going at 4/4 time, you know?
Yeah.
Like
it's like jazz, you know, music, comics can be like jazz.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Actually, it's cool. My co-host on the Grendel podcast that I do, he teaches comics and like storyboarding. And so he always talks about, because we love music and that's one of the things that brought us together. And a lot of times he'll call these things, this progression in comics, Zappa, because like the music of Zappa is so amazing and syncopated and, you know, sometimes crazy. And so like he'll say like, look at the Zappa on this page, meaning to call out like the rhythm of the panels and and how you would read it and stuff. And I just think that's so great.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, I don't have that kind of backing in music. I mean, I don't think any good popular music happened after Stevie Winwood left Traffic.
Oh,
in like
interesting.
1974. I'm old, you know. But I mean, I'm just teasing. I just, you know, I listen to the radio. Yeah. And so I don't have that thing, but I do notice comic book guys do that. Like I do anyway, when I'm writing something and I'm talking with the artist later, especially if I know the artist, I will write that in the script. Like, give me your best Sienkiewicz here. Or, you know, I'm looking for a little John Byrne, like tight on the eyes kind of thing. And so I totally see how that would work in music too. It's like, hey, I'm doing a little Zappa. Or,
it's
cool. Robbie Robertson. I don't know.
Ooh. They just had an amazing concert here. I wish I went to. They had a tribute to Robbie Robertson that I guess Martin Scorsese filmed as well.
Oh, really?
Filmed as well to make a film. Yeah, I don't know.
See, I'm that old.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff excites me. But man,
Again, you're probably my folks' age. That's what they brought me up with,
I just turned 61, so
Okay.
so
That's I think they just turned 70.
yeah. I mean, I got a lot of buddies that I'm 10 years younger than their parents.
Yeah.
Like kind of
Perfect.
I'm too old to actually be pals with you, but I'm too young to be pals with your parents. So
hey, come on.
If you like comics, you like Matt Wagner and Grendel, so we have to be friends.
Very much so.
There's so much to talk to you about, but let's because this is ostensibly Star Trek. Let's tell us about what happened in Newport Beach. You went to.
Oh my God, it was amazing. So yeah, it was the Newport Beach Film Festival, and so I thought it was closer than it was. It was about a 3-hour drive in traffic.
Oh dang!
So my girlfriend encouraged me to like go early because it would have been only 2 hours if I left early. So I took in another film at the film festival as well, which was like really cool. And I saw this film about 5 interconnecting lives that intersect at Antiques Roadshow as it travels through their town. I enjoy Antiques Roadshow. It's just a fun, as a collector.
Yeah.
It hits that, it's the intersection of like comic book men and, Pawn Stars or whatever.
Oh, yeah. No, we love all that stuff. My kid, when he was a boy.
Yeah.
And Mimi and I like looking at it when we go to little shops, we go to antique stores, and but Walker would play Frank and Mike. He'd be like, let's play Frank and Mike from Pickers. And he'd walk around and go, what are you going to need for that chair? He's like 8 years old, It was so funny.
That's great.
But I love that.
Was a cool movie. It was great. It had a lot of actors in it. Martin Sheen. It had, the Allstate guy, Pedro Serrano. He was actually there. Pedro from Major League. Can't remember his name. But
Dennis Hallsberg?
Dennis Hallsberg, yes. Yeah. So he was there. I got to say hi to him afterwards. I wish I would have been a big fan since Major League, but I just kind of said hi. And then so we went to the I went to the Star Trek Lower Decks thing. It was right around the corner. And when I got there, I was surprised because the theater was here and the line was all the way around the block.
Oh, no.
And I was just like, this is insane. And so there was all people in Lower Decks, uniforms and badges and, Dr. Ta'ana, everything. They had,
great.
It was cool. Full makeup for attendees. Like,
wow.
It was amazing. And so once we finally got in, I was by myself, so I was able to kind of finagle a nice seat. And so we had Jerry O'Connell. We had Mike McMahon, the creator. Absolutely amazing. We had Tendi actress, it's Noelle Wells, and then we had the killer who plays Rutherford. And
I actually don't know that actor's name because I loved him in A Good Place, so we just call him Pillboy in our house. It's like,
oh my God, he's so good. He's on this Comedy Bang Bang podcast. I like to. So let's see. I gotta look it up because I feel bad.
He was in an episode of The Mandalorian, and so my kid just yells "Pillboys" in Star Wars. And then he was
Eugene Cordero.
Yeah. But when he was in Loki, that's when my kid lost his mind.
Oh yeah, he was so good.
This guy's the new John. What do you say? He said John McClane, but he's the new Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, man, I bet that guy would be happy to hear that.
They were all really cool. It's funny. I see Jerry O'Connell sometimes at our local bar.
Oh, yeah.
You know what he orders, right?
Warp core breach?
Sliders.
Oh, sliders, of course.
It's a joke. Yeah.
That's great.
That's another great show.
I would do that if I was him.
If I was him, I'd be like, can I get the sliders? See what they say. Anyway, so yeah, they were all there. And so they showed us the first 2 episodes, which are now live anyway. It was only like a few hours before they went live. But so we watched those, and it was so cool to see them with a live audience for them too. Because, and this is some of the stuff that they were talking about, is like, they don't get to record together, number one. So they're not like reacting and getting that feedback. But then number 2, they never get to see this TV show with a live audience to see what people are laughing at, to see what, people are like awing at, where they hug at the end, and I don't want to. I don't know what your spoilers. Thing.
Oh, I watched it as soon
All
as
right,
it
so we're
went up
going full
yesterday.
spoilers.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
Tandy and Rutherford hug at the end of the second episode, everyone cheered and hooted, and that made them tear up. And
I think that just must be. I mean, we have that experience a little doing comics where we're done, and then like it might be 6 months or a year or longer until you get somebody's reaction. But the thing about comics is that everybody experiences it by themselves, right?
Right.
You get your 6-pack of beer, your stack of comics on Wednesday, and you sit down and don't talk to anybody, or whatever you do, right? You have a thing, but it's just you. Even if you're reading comics with friends, you guys are all still in your own heads, right?
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, and that is a fun thing I recently started doing with my other podcast, my friend Manus. We would read the comic that we were about to talk about, and we'd both be like, "Oh my god, did you see that?" Or like, "Oh my god," or something crazy happened. So that was really cool. But for them, that was something that was really meaningful.
One of the interesting things about that too was do you watch John Oliver at all?
I do, yeah.
During the coronavirus, they did this shoot where it was like him and the director and the cameraman in a white thing.
Yes.
And it was still the John Oliver show. Like you didn't have people reacting to jokes, but he knew you would.
Yeah.
And you would sit there and take the pause for the laugh you thought that joke deserved, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was badass because at the same time, Saturday Night Live was trying to do their thing where somebody do a skit and they'd send it in and they'd try to, edit it into something. But like you could tell these guys were so used to the live audience and feeding off that energy that they didn't know what they were doing was funny or not without that response. Yes. And John Oliver did. And I was like, you know what? There's a difference between performers and writers. Like the writer, even though he is a performer, he's performing his own stuff. He knows he's confident in the material. And then the performers are all just like, I'm the meat puppet, but I don't know if what I'm doing is working because I don't get that feedback from the audience. And I thought that was really cool. Yeah. And one of the one times that, writers win over pretty people.
Yeah. That was good. Let's see some other highlights from that. I think we're, Jerry O'Connell, I think every time we hear him talk about it, he's always talking about how, his wife is on Strange New Worlds. And so he's always, it does seem like they have like a healthy, repartee about it at home. Like they're always like, oh, my Trek's better. Or he just keeps talking about it. So that was really funny. And like, he was about to launch into talking about it. And Mike McMahon's like, we don't want to hear about your in bed situation. And he like went on. It was really funny. Everyone was like really laughing at that.
That guy's got to be funny. Like
Jerry O'Connell.
No, I was thinking Mike McMahon.
Oh yeah, dude.
But clearly Jerry O'Connell's funny.
Well, the way that Mike McMahon was talking about it too, and I read a quotation from Jack Quaid today too, saying that like he's like the biggest Star Trek fan he's ever seen. Yeah. And the fact that it's like if one of us got a Star Trek show, and did everything we could ever think about. Like every little in joke, every little, hilarious nod, and got to do anything we ever wanted with Star Trek, and that's kind of like what Mike McMahon was able to do with Lower Decks. And, that's why it's so weird to me that it's being canceled. It's not, I
can't believe he's getting away with it. And I can't believe the only thing that I will accept that 5 years and out is good for this is because they're just going to do a live action show.
I was thinking the same thing.
Or put those characters in a live action Star Trek. It doesn't have to be a Lower Deck show.
Yeah.
But like put Boimler in on a ship somewhere.
Oh my god.
And I would just cry.
Yeah.
Like just have Shaq show up and like be the security guard behind something in some quick thing, on the Reliant or something.
My god, it'd be amazing.
I would just die.
Like even if they did a 30-minute live action, it would be amazing. Like they're a little older. They're, on a Galaxy class ship now or something. And see, this is my pitch that I've been wanting to pitch for Paramount Plus. What they just need to do, use that old bridge set that they made for the end of of Picard. Have a series set during the next gen. It's a new crew. You need a little bit more lighting. Just light it bright.
Yeah, light it.
Yeah. Use any lighting. Crank up the lights and just shoot another Galaxy class ship on adventures.
Back in the old days, everybody would always tell me, I was always complaining about Star Trek, and they're like, "Well, what'd you do? What would you do?" And I finally did a 12-page thing called For the Time Being, and it's not Star Trek, right? But it's a ship, and the uniforms are different. But that's what I would do with Star Trek, where like a ship captain like gets sprayed throughout time, and every stupid thing that bothers you in Star Trek is because of him.
Oh, nice.
And so there's a time ship that cascades through time fixing shit. Like, no, it's James T. Kirk on the gravestone, not James R. Kirk. And there's a whole episode about that, right? And I just think it's the easiest thing in the world, because you have like an Enterprise D bridge, the time ship bridge, and a Kirk's bridge, and some hallways, and then fucking shoot it in green screens and CG, licensed to collect money, and no one complains because everyone is right.
Oh my god,
and
that would be so good. Like that. Like originally when they were pitching the new Star Treks, one of the ideas that was going around was that it was going to be a anthology show during different times.
Yeah,
and we thought we were going to get this Captain Worf ep, and we thought we were going to get all this stuff. That still would be awesome. And I know it was kind of like lower Treks, but
I think yes,
it's just too much money. They say, "Oh, we don't have the budget for it." But
okay. That's cool. I don't believe you.
Well, I do think it does kind of suck with this Paramount shift of ownership and all that. I do think that affected things, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it did.
It sucks that this back office bullshit had to affect, Star Trek, which is basically carrying, Paramount Plus. I guess probably Kevin Costner is carrying it more so, but I'm too young for that.
There's always the fresh new thing, but like they've been doing this since what, 1978. Paramount's been trying to do their own network, and they've been trying, and Star Trek was always going to be their crown jewel to launch the attention.
Yeah.
And so finally, they did that with the Paramount Network, and then they did it with CBS All Access. Yeah. And it's always, hey, you got Star Trek. But what boned them this time is like they didn't give us Star Trek.
Yeah, and I like Discovery. And I think this is what we talked about the second time we talked about with Dan. Yeah. I liked it, but that's because like I do everything I can to like it. I try not to pick, but then looking back, it's like, what was Picard season 2? Like, why? Like it was fun, and I enjoyed watching it, and I love it. And like I said before, like it's a really great way to connect with my dad. He's out there. We talk about it every time, every episode. It's just like before, and so it's a great way to talk about it. And another great regret of my lifetime, and here I am talking directly to my folks again, is when Enterprise was showing. I think I've told this too. We watched everything from Next Gen together, usually as a family. But then when Enterprise was showing, I was kind of like getting into high school days, and I wanted to go party and hang out. And they'd be like, just stay for Enterprise, and then you can go do whatever you want. I'd be like, yeah, I'm leaving now. And I still feel bad about that. Mom and Dad, here's Dad texting me right now.
Well, yeah, you learned your lesson though, right?
Of course. And
you're not an old man with your own son going, please watch Star Trek with me. Oh, yeah. I can apologize. It's not like that.
If I did have a son, he'd be watching Star Trek with me for sure. Dad reminded me to say that we got to see Robert Picardo in an airport one time.
Oh, nice.
And, we both were like, we got to say hi. We got to say hi. We never did. And it always became like a metaphor of like, to use Star Trek times, seize the time, Maribor. Use now, because now will never come again. From Star Trek The Next Generation. I can't remember the episode name, but it's the one where Picard goes in.
It's one of those episodes
where he gets the flute for the first time.
Oh man, just yesterday I was quoting some. What a piece of work is man! How noble in stature. You know, when Picard is quoting Macbeth, like,
Oh yeah, yes.
What Hamlet said in derision, I now say, well, you know, whatever. And my kid was like, how do you know that? Like, because when that was on, it was a big deal in my life, man.
Yes.
You know, like,
it's lodged in there forever.
He just doesn't get Chris, of course, Sagasag's the inner light. And we're like, yeah.
Inner light, yeah.
We know it's the inner light. We weren't gonna embarrass you. The only reason I know that one is because I have a lot of friends who think that's the best Star Trek episode in all the 800 hours, and I just laugh at them because it's clearly Darmok.
That is good. You know, and I will say, I mean, Darmok is a lot like Enemy Mine. Have you seen that? Of course.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so that's another great movie. Now, I will say, I saw the guy that plays the Lower Decks character, who is that race. His name is also escaping me at this time. It'll come back to me.
The actor or the character?
The actor who plays the character in Lower Decks.
Yeah, I don't know his name.
The Antimarian, is that what they're called?
The Children of Tamar. So.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Sometimes they're Tamarians.
Tamarian, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, so the guy who plays that, I saw him at a club. I think he was like rapping or something, opened up for a band I like called "Don't Stop or We'll Die." Which is a quote that no one understands from Back to the Future. In 1955, he comes up to those people and he's like, "Can you help me?" And they're like, and she's like, "Don't stop or we'll die." Like, never understand what that quote is. Anyway, you know, I was just talking to him because I had a Lower Decks sweatshirt on at the time, and I was like,
yeah,
you don't know what that character means to people because of what that episode means to people. It's one of the greatest episodes of all time. And just the fact that we have another one of those, like, you don't know what that means. Cause I was like, are you a huge Trek fan? He's like, I'm not really. Carl Tart. His name's Carl Tart. And he was like, I don't get it. And I'm like, dude, it's just like, it means so much to the fans that you're embodying this character. And he was like, oh man, that's so cool. Thank you so much. You know, it's just cool to have that character and that Lower Decks can do that.
What a neat thing for you, though, to be able to contextualize to that guy. It's like, I know you think it's just a gig, man, but like everybody else thinks it's not. So try your best.
The fan base,
thank you,
is a dog. Exactly what I said, dude.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't know, but I mean, people have told me that, and you know, the writers and all those guys, they tell me. So you know. That's another great thing. And we saw in the trailers for next season of Lower Decks too that they've got Harry Kim coming up. So are we going to see Lieutenant Harry, Commander Harry?
Something happens where they at least admit he's not our Harry. Because they never have.
Is he the only person that went from ensign directly to captain? Because that would be perfect.
That would be great. I kind of had that experience with actors actually in the old days when Battlestar Galactica was going. I was on some school trip to Washington, D.C., and part of our thing was that we got to see some play that had come down from Broadway in D.C., right? And then our big thing is we get to talk to the actors afterwards. So I'm reading the little like playbill, whatever those friggin' things are called.
Yeah.
And I see this one guy was in the Fire in Space episode of Battlestar Galactica, which was like I had seen like the year before and could completely remember because that's awesome. One of the colonial ships was on fire. And so I had this, so it's time to ask a question. I raised my hand. It's like, I asked him some cool thing about like, what's it like working on Battlestar Galactica? What's the whole thing? And what's the difference between TV and theater as an actor? And he's just like stand there like I'm just a guy, like he's this kid. And he goes, are you asking the questions for everyone? I'm like, no, I'm just like really into Battlestar Galactica. and he goes, and so that gets a big laugh because it's 1978 or whatever, right? Yeah. And no one's a nerd except for me in a 100-mile radius. And he goes, well, you're not gonna like this answer, man, but it's just a gig to me. And no, but it really helped me like contextualize what I was a fan of, right?
Oh, interesting.
Because I was like, oh, you know what? That being awesome and entertaining people and doing cool shit is just a gig you can have. Yeah. And that guy's like, well, that's just what I do. This is something I could aspire to, I guess. And so I tell people that story because everyone has that reaction of yours. Well, that guy just shit on your dreams.
Right.
Like, no, he like gave me my dreams. You know. So every once in a while, when I tell a story, I think I should look that guy up, and I never do.
Makes it attainable. Like, it's not that huge of a thing or something, And
well, it's like what I got from that picture of you and your parents at the whatever that Universal Star Trek thing
screen
was,
test.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like it contextualizes. Oh, look, this is a thing that like people do. It's not like some magical Keebler entertainment that shows up, ooh, pew pew and Enterprise, and I don't know. I like Star Trek because it's fake and it is completely real to me at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, and I've always been into it like that too. Like we went to there's a couple things that made it like real for me. Like at the Air and Space Museum when I was a kid, they had a whole exhibit, and so we went. Of course, we had to go, and there was a enterprise. There was a transporter room, and there was a bridge, or there was a captain's chair, and there was all this stuff to read. And there, I'll never forget it. There was a video of, and I like memorized this speech. I did it in JFK's "We choose to go to the moon in this decade." I memorized that. I used that in like a speech when I graduated from my second college, and like it just contextualized Star Trek in our world, but then also showed me props for the first time, and that these future things are just like some tubes with some other tubes glued onto them, and that I could try to make them, or that I could do it. And I think from there, if not sooner or later, I got the Star Trek Technical Manual, which has all the blueprints and has everything. And so I just used to sit there.
Oh yeah.
Cut these shapes out from cardboard, draw it on there. We lived in the woods in rural Western Maryland. And so I would put on my next gen outfit and have my phaser, whether it was the Playmates one or the pad that I made from cardboard. And I'd run up in those woods, and it would be to go. I keep saying to go mission. That's to get food. I mean, away mission. And so I would do that all the time, and I always wanted to make a fan film or something. And really, the first time I did it is what you saw at the beginning there. But
no way, that was the first time you shot a little Star Trek thing.
Shot a Star Trek thing, I think. Yes,
that's great, man. you nailed it. You nailed
I've done a lot of like little shorts and done stuff with my that was just cinematic mode on an iPhone, and so you see so much Star Trek, and I've watched every episode. You internalize the visual language, of shots, and it starts, and I get a little. I knew that if I focus on the sun, I can get a little JJ.
Oh yeah,
diffraction, and then so I knew that I could get these little effects going on it if I tried. And then you go to trekcore.com. I'm sure everyone here knows trekcore.com.
For the screen grabs, right?
Yeah. Well, and also they have a full library of sounds.
All the sound and music, of course.
And, and they have whole scenic soundscapes of planets and stuff. And I didn't want to get too sci-fi, so I found some of my own scenic sounds. But there's all these little things that they give you to make a Star Trek fan film out there. It's really cool.
So what do you edit on your phone, right? What
I edited on iMovie on my computer. Yeah. I've gotten really good with iMovie. I can use the Adobe one, but I've gotten so good with iMovie to do these little tricks and to get transparent GIFs, and that's the lasers at the end, the lightning, and you can do all these little tricks. And I did the fade around, and then I ran all the way down to the end of that thing and went off camera, and then came on camera and walked in, but then I cross dissolved it so that
I noticed that. That was great.
The only one.
There's a couple of really good tricks you did. There was one action shot that's on the 180 that was really cool.
Yes,
I mean, I
wanted to
haven't
do a
watched it a
couple of
lot, but I was just like, oh, look at Eli.
you know,
he's
I
bringing it
didn't go to film school, but I went to entertainment business at Full Sail University
up.
when I went back to school, and my girlfriend was in film, and I just hung out with the film kids the whole time, and I basically got like a free minor in film there. So I was in all these films there, and I was learning about cameras, and I just hung out in their classes and stuff. And
Oh,
so,
that's awesome.
yeah, it was really smart way to do that, I thought. So
What a great way of not looking at it like, it's my job. I have to go to class. It's like, no, here's something you want to pay attention
yeah,
to, right? Yeah.
I was there for it, and it was like I said, my second college. I just didn't do college the first time. I went on fish tour during finals week, I always say, which I did do. That's no joke. I got to see BB King play with fish, though. It was pretty amazing. But again, but it's like you go out of high school, you're not ready for college always. I certainly wasn't.
Yeah.
So then the second time I went, it's all I wanted to do. I wanted to learn. I wanted to get as much as I could out of it. And so.
Yep. Sounds like we had a similar experience. I cut granite for 2 years in the middle of junior and senior year because I just was like, I don't care. And my parents were like, well, you got to do something. And I'm like, well, I'll get a job and save up for the next year, I guess.
And
it was the best thing I ever did because I was like, oh, okay. This is how the world really works, not this freaking college bullshit. So when I went back, I was like, you never missed a class, pay for everything myself. I was like all A's. I'm like, yes, I'm sorry I didn't do that the first time, but I learned my lesson. Let's go.
I actually want this knowledge now. I want this information so that someday I can make a Star Trek fan film and people will dig it.
Well, I made my kid watch it because we had been talking about what we're gonna do. I don't know if you follow this nonsense, but Brian Shaneman is really into his big suede leather jacket, the Go Climb a Rock one that Kirk wears.
Oh yeah.
And so I got Price one for his birthday. I got one, and we're trying to get Sagasag to buy one because we're all old men, and that's the Starfleet uniform that looks great.
Yeah,
old guys with gray in their beard. Get some medals, and we'll be all set.
Oh, that'd be amazing. You can sing "Row, row, row, row your boat."
I love that movie. I don't care who knows it.
I don't mind it at all. I enjoy all of them. What does God need with the Star Trek?
I think it's cool that every Star Trek fan has at least a passable William Shatner.
You have to,
right? Well, but it speaks to your point. It's like you just kind of soak it up from over the years of just watching it all.
Yeah,
and everybody's got a pretty decent Spock too, because you just or who my sister who hates watching Star Trek has a good Scotty.
Yeah,
because it's like everybody has a little in, and that's what's missing from the new Star Trek, if you ask me.
There's not a lot to grasp onto like that, and because I think Beam Me Up Scotty too was like in the lexicon, like hard for everyone. Even if you didn't watch a single episode of Star Trek, you knew Beam Me Up Scotty.
Yeah.
You knew
he's dead, Jim. Those two things.
Dead Jim, yes.
You would hear that on the playground from cheerleaders and go, "What? How do you know that?" It was always like, "Oh, my dad likes Star Trek." But
I just can't do it, Captain. And that came into a whole new thing with Ace Ventura. And one of the first times my girlfriend says that she, like, I don't know, knew she loved me or whatever was because I could do the full, like, Ace Ventura, Star Trek. I traveled back in time to save an ancient species from total annihilation.
That's
so far, nothing, And, like, I could do that whole thing. And she's like, wow, this guy loves Ace Ventura. And I was like, I love Ace Ventura and I love Star Trek. And they did both. And I was like,
Jim Carrey has to have been a Star Trek fan because I remember watching the Cable Guy and they start playing the fight music. And I just lost my mind.
And he played Kirk on In Living Color, actually, too.
To the point where this new guy looks like he's doing a Jim Carrey riff, doesn't he? Paul Wesley? It's like,
the guy in Strange New Worlds.
Oh, that's not. Just the yellow shirt, the shirt that's too yellow, doesn't look like a Star Trek shirt anyway. And then the guy, there's something about the framing of his smile.
Yeah.
Like sort of under his cheekbones, but not to his jaw yet. You just hold your hand like that, and it looks like Jim Carrey.
Yeah, he's definitely got a Jim Carrey going on.
Anyway.
And I remember seeing that because I used to love all the anniversary specials, and we had one of those on tape. And they did a like supercut of like, you know, John Belushi as Kirk.
Oh yeah,
and all those, and you know, Patrick Stewart on the Love Boat, The Next Generation on Saturday Night Live, and oh my God, I loved all that stuff.
I love that skit because all that whole cast was totally into Next Generation.
Yeah,
like Chris Farley was doing like Riker's weird back thing.
Oh yeah,
you know, just stuff that like, no, you're watching Star Trek just like us, man.
Yeah, Next Gen too. I feel like it was really into the, you know, I keep saying lexicon, but it was in the you know, the everyone was watching it at that point.
Yeah, the zeitgeist.
The
man.
zeitgeist.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, you were totally right.
Yeah. It was cool there for a minute. Not, you know, I'm not sure if it was where I was living, but for us it was like the coolest thing.
Well, it was a thing, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, when you're selling
Stewart,
Playmates action figures and making all the toys, and,
yeah. I remember Patrick Stewart was the sexiest man on TV, and I saw him on Jay Leno, and they were like, "What's that about?" And he got really bristly. It was great because Jay Leno comes out and goes, "Well, you know, the bald man being sexiest man." He's like, "Yes, why is that not a thing?" You know, it was really funny, and because, you know, I was losing my hair back then. I was like, "Fuck yeah, Patrick Stewart, sexiest man alive."
It's so funny too that, like, you know, he tells that story about in his auditions they made him wear a wig and stuff, and there's that photo, and it's like, no way, that would have been terrible.
It's so funny how like it doesn't work, right? You must have seen all those costume test things. Like they had Jordy with his visor thing, but he was just wearing some kind of like
a sweater.
Yeah.
I love that. There's a gif of that goes around where he's like, you know, got a thumbs up, and because LeVar Burton
Bill Cosby sweater.
Oh yeah, it was a Cosby sweater. Major.
Anyway,
LeVar Burton was kind of like the segue point for me because, you know, I was at that age. I was like 5 or 6 when Next Gen happened, and Reading Rainbow was like,
oh yeah, he's your pal from Reading Rainbow.
Yeah, so like, and I was like, I know him, you know, and then there was even that crossover episode. There was an episode of Reading Rainbow where he goes to the set of Next Gen, and that they showed you how they did the transporter effect and how they like dropped glitter into this water and shot the water like spinning around. And that like was the first time I ever learned anything about special effects. And I was like, oh my God, no way. Like, you know, that got me wanting to understand like how movies worked. And, you know, I used to shoot little stop motion things for class projects or with my cousin Dylan, who is like now a filmmaker, you know.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And like, so, you know, it's just these little things that you don't think about when you're a kid, but then you look back and think back and you're like, this got me like curious about filmmaking or prop making, or, you know, why I have like a, you know, away mission, you know, box next to me.
That's
I wanted to have my uniform on, and I want to tell your listeners I couldn't find it. I don't know what I did with it. Maybe I left it on the planet of Goom or wherever.
I just figure it's time to requisition another one from Starfleet. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think I might go Deep Space Nine style next. I don't know what.
I'm so deep into the costume thing. My next one I'm probably gonna try is the guy from The Cage. You know, remember the hallucination where the guy goes, nice place you got here, Mr. Pike, when the Ryan girl's dancing?
I think so, yeah.
He's got like this like sort of pirate costume on, weird jewelry and stuff, but there's a Starfleet guy next to him, but he's got gray pants instead of black, and he's got the gray tunic, but like sort of a Eisenhower jacket on over it. And it's got some epaulets and some ribbons, and I'm like,
I love how deep you go with your cuts.
That's what I want.
You did the Ghostbusters 2 Con Ed guys. I was like, oh my God, that is like such a deep cut.
Well, because we're old, man.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to, like, me and my costume buddies, we've done everything, you know, over the years.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not the best thing. Maybe my Moon Knight was like a cut up sheet and white athletic shorts and white tights that I borrowed from somebody, you know, but I did it, so I don't have to do the new guy, right? But it's like, oh, I gotta have a 1970s Con Ed construction hat, you know, and then
Yeah.
it's over. Then
Yeah.
you start, well, where's my flannel shirt? I gotta be the guy carrying the 2x4 for no reason. Like, yeah, my friend Steve and Mark are really into Ghostbusters, so
yeah.
I have a pretty good Ghostbusters gear, and they're like, yeah, that's the obvious, like yawn.
Yeah.
That's a fucking part of the accelerator. It looks great. And they're like, no, where's the orange thing that goes over when he's talking to Dana or whatever? You know, it's like,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. I love that stuff.
But that's what I
one
like
of the
about
things I loved in the new Ghostbusters too, where they diversified all the stuff and they have all the different like cores, and they had the gear Ghostbusters logo,
Yeah.
and the like tech. They had the like, you know, the Geek Squad, the Ghostbusters, and
yeah, I love that engineering thing with the cog and the ghost. That was great.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's a thing that I can't understand why we're not on, 20 movies, 22 movies of that.
Agreed.
But
the comics really did a good job where they set it up like there was one in every city, and there's all these different city Ghostbusters, and there was a whole series where they followed the like Chicago Ghostbusters, and then they all get together and
a Super Avengers Ghostbusters. That would be great.
Yeah. I mean, the comics are great. They did a team up too of like, you know, the movie Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters and the cartoon, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of really cool. I think it's called Crossing Over, Ghostbusters Crossing Over. You know, the comics can do everything, including there's a Ninja Turtles Ghostbusters crossover, but I don't know why there's not a Ninja Turtles Star Trek crossover shouting out IDW, look, man, I'm the perfect guy to write it. And guess what? I already have a 3-page document laying out my entire script and stuff, you know. So I don't want to say too much, but it takes place during the Dominion War. And yeah, guess what? The Triceratons, they get involved.
Just do it, man.
I know. I think that's the way to go.
And then what? Then they come after you. What do you do? Like, okay.
Doesn't matter.
Great.
I already did it. That's what we did with Image Grand Design. You know, we just did it.
Right.
And, you know.
It's not like, that's what I was saying. It's not like you have actual precedent for doing stuff like that and everybody going, hey, good job, instead of suing you. You know?
You know, it's kind of cool because that thing has a life of its own. I went recently, we were at Kevin Smith's Chronic Con, which was amazing. We tabled there. And the people next to us who had an amazing comic called Stoned Ninja, obviously. And they were like, oh, we've heard of Image Grand Design. Of course we've heard of this. This is, you know, legendary. I already wrote off that I was never going to be able to get a hard copy, and I had like one left over. And, you know, he was like, oh, I think I'll buy it later. And then like an hour later, he came back by like kicking rocks, being like, yeah, I'll take it now. You know what? I better just get it. And it was so cool, you know, to just, because I think that's probably how I thought about things. Like, I just want to be in people's long boxes. I just want to be remembered. I want to be on their spinner rack, and I want to be on the rack and have it say Cosmic Lion Productions right next to DC and Marvel and Dark Horse. And
well, you know, I think you're doing everything right. The second you handed me an embroidered patch, I'm like, he's fine.
Like, shout out to my dad. Dad got this made for me, actually.
It's because you're making it look like the cool thing about your marketing is that you make it look like you're not telling people, oh, look what you missed. You say, hey, we're doing this cool thing. And so like everybody has a jumping on point of like, you know, and come on. And then it's like, well, if you don't have money, that's cool. Like, go back and think about it, because you will. And I'll see you in an hour or so when you go, oh, geez, I got to buy it. And that happened without you saying that to that guy. Yeah. Right. So that's just really good marketing. You know, that's where I come from, because everybody's got a good idea, and like half of those people can get it done, but then all of those people quit. It's like the story's not over once you finish, man. You got to put it in people's long boxes, like you said. Yeah. So you're doing it right.
What we're striving to do. And, you know, I keep trying to pick up science fiction stuff, and I want to tell the great stories that, you know, like Star Trek inspired me to tell these great stories. And And if I can somehow, get into a Star Trek something somehow, I'm excited. I go to the conventions, and now like I recently inherited like a bit of a Star Trek collection from a friend, Seymour Salerson. Shout out Seymour. He is with the Prophets now, but I'm like thinking about what I want to do with this, and I think I want to try to get a table at Vegas Con or something like that, and try to seed this creativity off to the fans, because Seymour was like the greatest Star Trek collector. He had every episode taped, cataloged, off in the thing. That's another thing we don't have enough of. We can't solidify these shows. Nobody's taping Discovery onto VHS. I'm sure there's someone. There's definitely.
Yeah, there has to be somebody.
But, it was such a thing in the 80s and 90s. We taped everyone if we didn't get to see it, and we'd all get together as a family, and Dad was like the master of the fast forward through the commercials, and then perfectly stopped and be like right in, and
how do you do that, Dad?
How'd you do that? It was so sick. He actually just sent me the very VCR we did that, because we're like getting back into tapes and stuff. And
I totally did that because 88 is when it started. And when I went back to college, that was 89. So when I went to college, I took my VCR and the first 2 seasons of Next Gen that I had taped, right? Nice. And I would just play those all the time. And that just doesn't happen now. That's how we know this stuff from Interlaid and Darmok and all those things, because I would tape it came out on Saturday in Boston. I would tape it Saturday night and watch it with my buddies. And then I would watch it Sunday morning, and then Monday afternoon, and Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday afternoon. And I would watch it 7 times until the next one was on. Yeah. Even shitty episodes, right? I was just like, because I made my own labels. Like there was no like real desktop publishing. Right. So I cut out a Star Trek logo from one of the Playmates things, and then I took my transfer letters, and I had 4 episodes to a tape because I'm doing an SLP.
Yeah.
And I got all of them. I did all of that. I did all of Deep Space Nine, and I started doing Voyager before I went, the fuck am I doing? I can buy these on DVD now.
Yes.
Yeah. And so my Next Gens, I went through it and I looked at funny commercials, because they were like about 10 years old at the time.
Yeah, I love that.
There was a lot of stuff. The guy from Northern Exposure, what was that actor's name? Rob something.
Oh yeah.
Right before he booked that gig, he was like on every commercial for Sprite and like aspirin and everything. And I was just like, his name's Rob something, Rob Morrow. Okay. And I was like, oh, look, here's Rob Morrow again, like selling antacid. It was just hilarious.
Oh, man, the commercials are great. I remember these ones from the Maryland Lottery, too. There was like this lonely robot sitting on a park bench or something. And the commercials were the fun part of going back, especially like 10 years later.
Yeah.
And you see all that. Yeah. And I remember, too, because we would, start it like at 7:59 or something, just in case. And so a lot of these tapes for the later series, you have the very tail end of the Highlander TV show theme songs. Like My Queen, we've got tomorrow, we got the shining blood of kings. Never once did I ever see that show, but I knew the outro theme song by heart, because it was like on there every single Next Gen app from like 6 and 7 or something.
I love that show.
Was it good? I'm sure it was good.
I was just a big fan of the first movie.
Yeah.
And that was the first time where the dude from the movie handed it off to the dude from the TV show, and it gave it like such legitimacy. And I was like, even in my early 20s, I was old enough to like not be thrilled by that. And I totally was. I was like, okay, well, there can be only one, except his cousin that going to have the TV adventures, and they'll kill each other later.
Yeah,
that was great. I was like, and then that kind of happens now, with Marvel stuff where like, Samuel L. Jackson's on S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever
for like one episode.
Yeah, but
interesting. Yeah, man, I sure love that. And I'll tell you another episode that really made an impact on me. There's one, and I never watched it again ever. It scared the shit out of me. Jordy turns into the blue veined thing, and his fingers go together. Oh my God, it scared the hell out of me. Every time, even though, and especially probably because Jordy was my favorite character on that, and LeVar was like the man to me. And like, you know, he turned into the most frightening character, and he was in the shadows all the time. And like, I would run up from the basement because I'd be so scared. I saw him in the bathroom mirror. He's there.
There's a man covered in
watch that episode again.
Glow in the dark paint and neoprene downstairs.
Oh, I know. And they would like come out of the shadows with their like nictitating membrane eyes, and I'm like, oh my God.
The one thing about that episode I really enjoy is they made an action figure of him.
Oh, I bought it recently.
Yeah,
I was like, it scared me so bad.
I just love that they tooled up an action figure for just like one thing to happen to a guy in one episode.
One little teeny episode.
Like, where's my salamander babies from Voyager? You know?
Oh yeah, another amazing Lower Decks. Oh
man, every episode of Lower Decks I love. Talking about Mike, let's wind it up because it's about an hour. But talking about Michael McMahon, that dude, like he all the stuff about the Mugatu and from Private Little War.
Oh my
God!
Like
McCoy says it differently. It's spelled differently. He was
talking about that at the thing too.
It's spelled differently in the credits. It's said 3 different ways, and they fucking made jokes in the episode about that. It was just so up inside baseball that I'm crying blood, green Vulcan blood, laughing so hard.
They mentioned that too because in the new,
my kid are like, "What?
What are you laughing at?"
And there's no way to explain it, right?
Yeah.
It's just you need to know.
They mentioned that about the new episode too because they say Orions instead of Orions, and that's also from the animated series because apparently William Shatner. He recorded by himself and he didn't have anyone there to tell him how to pronunciate stuff. So he just pronounced Orions wrong.
Sagasag and I were talking about that just yesterday because that's, and they draw them the way they do in the animated series. And then there's like a whole section of them that say it wrong. Yes. Oh my God. That's just brilliant. I love those guys.
It's the most like, it's finally someone new, and especially with Star Trek. I don't know what else you could really do it with, though. I'm sure Star Wars and probably Battlestar, but like you just know that the fans want this, and this is how like we think, you know. And he's just like, I know exactly what you want to see, and all the little things, and like, you know, the one where they go to the like job fair and they have to have like a Starfleet tent at the job fair, you know, like,
and they have to man the table.
Oh my God, there's so many good things.
It's so funny you bring that up because I was telling my wife I was going to speak to you, and she said almost the same thing about Lower Decks, that she was like, you can't do that with any other show. And then she said, oh wait, yeah, you could do it with MASH. And I started dying laughing because I'm like, I think you could do it with MASH. and you would serve 100,000 people that would get every joke just like we get Star Trek.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it, and I'm not sure that's commercial. And so she said it because I put these on. You can't really see, but I have all 5 on.
Oh, 5 pips.
And she's like, oh, what do you have 5 on for? And I go, oh, I'm experimenting with a new rank. That's Corporal Captain. It's just like this joke from MASH, right? And she died laughing, and she's like, I'm the only person that would get that joke. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but maybe not, right? Because they hung a whole episode on this Mugatu craziness, and like you say that for every episode, right? Like they have the Spock helmet, the little toy thing with the iron on it.
Yeah,
dude, like I would ever have thought that's legit canon now because so is Lower Decks.
Yeah, and in every episode, and every little thing like that, like having the ensign that spilled coffee on Picard as a captain.
Yes.
Oh my God, that and
Sonia Gomez.
Sonia Gomez. Yep. Damn, I couldn't believe I couldn't remember that. Yep.
You know what's awesome? That actress became an investigative reporter, and she's the one that broke the Bill Cosby story.
No way.
When Hannah, what's his name? Hannibal Buress.
Hannibal Buress
in the crowd, just like hanging out when he was riffing on that, and she went to go speak to him after, and like broke that whole story open. And I'm like, Simon Gomez for Star Trek? That hottie?
Oh man, you talking about your uniform? I'm so like, I love this Jam shirt, obviously, but I have so many Star Trek shirts and uniform stuff. I thought I was going to change into my uniform, and I just don't have it.
Eli, next time, we're going to speak to you again with some.
We're going to do it again.
Stuff, and maybe we'll get you on again.
I could have at least done this.
Yeah, I just love my Exeter. I'm just so
yeah.
I thought that everybody in Next Gen should have their own shit things like they did in
like in the original series, they all had different logos.
So this is I actually designed one for Price. He's on the USS Kitty Hawk. So I did this square with a circle that represents the. If you saw it, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a front version of a plane, except cool and stylish.
I was so excited that on Discovery they had a USS Clark, like named after Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I almost bought the miniature of it, but
yeah, you can go broke quick doing that.
Yes. Now the Eagle Moss was gone, but then someone else just took over for them and announced a bunch of stuff at New York Comic Con.
Oh man, that's the one thing I didn't do this week. My kid had 2 back-to-back football games, but I usually follow all the news from the big cons.
Yeah,
a little closer, so I'm gonna have to. I saw all the trailers. That was good.
There's a lot. We're living in a golden age of media that we shouldn't, take it for granted, and
All right, let's find out. Eli, say something nice to your parents if they're still here.
Betts and Doug, thanks again for everything. Thanks for making me. Thanks for turning me on to Star Trek.
Aww.
And I love you to death.
I'm glad they're proud of you, man. That's awesome.
Me too.
Yeah.
It means a lot. They're Cosmic Line Productions' biggest fans, and so much love to them.
All right, well, let's call it. That's Eli Schwab.
Thanks,
CosmicLionProductions.com or
CosmicLionProductions.com. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
A lot of great stuff.
I recommend all your stuff.
Thank you so much.
All right. Star Trek.
Live long and prosper. Fascinating.